Hello to everyone attending the Self-Publishing Advice Conference hosted by Ally in conjunction with the London Book Fair Spring 2018. Today I'm going to talk to you about a topic that should help you build your author business. So the official title is Finding the Right Freelancers to Build Your Author Business. I am Alexa Bigwarfe, and I will tell you a little bit more about me in a second, but I wanted to give a rundown on why this topic is important first. For many of us, when we first decide we want to write a book, we do not realize that we are essentially launching a business. And we have to consider our book writing if we're wanting to actually make money and grow, which if you're here attending a conference of this nature, I believe you are committed to making as much money as you can from your love of writing and publishing books. So it's important that we have some training on some skills and some things that can help us along the way. One of the things that I have found has helped me the absolute most in growing my writing career and my author support businesses has been bringing on freelancers to help in the process. And I'll get into all of the whys and everything behind that, but I wanted you to have an understanding of what we're going to be talking about. So in a nutshell, how you can use freelancers, virtual assistants, other freelancers to help you grow and further your author business. So who am I? My name is Alexa Bigwarfe. You may recognize that name. I am the conference manager for the Self-Publishing Advice Conference this year. And I'm also an author support coach and an author services provider, in addition to obviously being an author myself, and I have a small micro publishing company myself. So I am regularly using freelancers, but what's even more interesting is that I started off as a freelancer. So my journey to publish a book actually began with a family tragedy when I lost one of my infant daughters. She passed away 2 days after birth, and I started blogging as a place to be able to express my emotions and my grief, because anyone who's been through a significant loss understands that there are just some things that some of us don't feel comfortable sharing out loud or talking or in conversations. And also I found that after a certain amount of time, a lot of people really didn't want to talk about it with me anymore. Plus I had a lot of information that I wanted to share about helping someone who is going through a loss, about talking about the syndrome that my daughters had, about raising awareness, about all these other things. So I started blogging. And as many bloggers do, we get into it and we want to obviously learn as much as we can and get our blog in front of as many people. So I started picking up skills on blogging and SEO and promotion and all kinds of things that have helped me greatly in my marketing career as an author. Then eventually I decided that I wanted to write a book, and I brought together a list of incredible parents who have suffered through the loss of a pregnancy, infant, or even an older child. And we published the book Sunshine After the Storm, a survival guide for the grieving mother. I did all the work self-taught, just as many of you have. I self-taught myself the interior layout. I did hire a cover designer, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to a site like Fiverr or something like that, found somebody, and after I started learning more about the industry and publishing, realized how horrible the cover actually was. So the cover's been since redone by someone who knows what they're doing. So that is one of the dangers. I'm not going to lie. That is one of the dangers about working with freelancers as we do our indie publishing. But with the right guidance and knowing where to find them and work with them, usually you can find people who know what they're doing and are great at what they're doing. So anyway, I published this book, did the whole thing, hired an editor, did all of that stuff, but all the publishing element I did by myself. And I found that I really enjoyed the process. As frustrating as doing that interior layout was, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to go from a very drab looking Word document to this beautiful inside of a book, and everything associated with that. It gave me a lot of joy. So I continued to do books, and people started coming to me. I'm sure you've had this experience where people will come to me and say, how did you do this? How did you publish this? And a lot of indie authors actually can start building a side income by supporting others and coaching them through the process, or providing the services that we've spent hours learning how to do, like interior layout or loading to all the right places or doing the keyword search or all those types of things. So I'm also speaking to those of you who have maybe started to branch out and realize that one of the avenues of making money with your books is by helping other people with their books, like I did when I developed Write, Publish, Sell, which is an author support services business. So for those of you who are doing that, or who have decided to start publishing other people's books or things like this, this is also a very relevant thing for you, because you're going to need other people to help you along the way, unless you just have a lot of free time. But so that answers the why freelancers, because I needed them and I didn't have the budget to go out and hire somebody to bring on staff. I don't have, the closest thing I have to somebody on staff is my virtual assistant, and even she is still a 1099 employee, which for those of you who aren't Americans, basically a subcontractor that we don't have hired on under our business entity, but is someone that we pay not under the table. I still pay taxes on her and all of that stuff, but we pay her as a subcontractor, and she's not included as a part of my business. Eventually, I would like to have an actual employee, but that's a whole different conversation, right? So as you're thinking about ways to branch out and build your business, one of the easiest things to do is to bring on freelancers, subcontractors, and people who can either help you for a long period of time through a variety of projects, and we'll talk about how to do that, or people that you may just need as on a project by project basis. I do occasionally use Fiverr. It depends on what the service is, but I've found that there's some great things that you can do, like editing videos and things like that, that aren't necessarily something that you want to have more of an insight into or more control over, because you know, things like that, the video editing, audio editing, podcast editing, transcription, even things like that are important, but maybe aren't quite as important as the cover design or the interior layout, that are like crucial to how this book looks and feels, and whether or not it meets industry standards and things like that. I'm not to the point where I'm ready to farm those types of things out to an agency like Fiverr. But I have found that if I've had someone come to me with a design for an interior layout that has a lot of images or a lot of graphics or things like that, there are some incredible people who within a day can turn around a PDF into an InDesign file that I can then format and work with, and save me hours of time in trying to transition from a beautiful PDF to an InDesign file. So, you know, you just have to kind of look out there, ask other people, see what you want to do, experiment. But I'm not going to go too into detail on what those types of things. I just wanted to kind of give an example there. So how do you find them? Well, this is kind of where I have an interesting insight and a shortcut maybe, because as I mentioned, I started off on the services side. I started off as a blogger, and while I was trying to make some side income so that I could actually afford to publish my books, I started picking up side jobs as a copywriter and a virtual assistant myself. So I spent several years doing virtual assistant work for others, with others. I was going through training programs, and I found some networks. So I'm in touch with a lot of network groups on virtual assistants. There's a great one we'll talk about when we get down into the resources, but Create Your Laptop Life was a business started by a fellow blogger and good friend of mine, Julie Stoyan, who, if you're looking for funnels or things like that, is somebody, I mean, you just can't go wrong with her on those types of things. But anyway, she created this organization specifically to train virtual assistants in things like to just give them all the tools that they need to be a good virtual assistant. So how to set up their contracts, how to set up payment terms, how to, be professional, just all these things. And she has some resources for people who are looking for virtual assistants. I'm in all kinds of other groups and have gone through trainings and of that nature. And we are actually establishing a database of people who provide services that have been somewhat vetted because they're in my groups and I've interacted with them and know who they are. Some of them I've worked with already. And that is going to be on our writepublishsell.co site, which I will include the link at the bottom of, well, you can just go to writepublishsell.co/freelancers, and you will have the opportunity to choose whether you are looking for one or whether you are one, and we can try and connect you if we have somebody who meets the requirements that you're looking for. So that's one of the things that, you can go out and you can Google search virtual assistants. And the reason I say virtual assistants so much is that many people who do graphic art, design, cover design, even those types of things, like they will identify themselves as a virtual assistant. But more importantly than that, I think that there are so many good virtual assistants out there that can help you. Like if I were to tell you where to start initially when it comes to bringing on a freelancer to build your team, I would say to bring on a virtual assistant first. So virtual assistants are essential in helping you free up your main resource of time so that you can then go on and do other income generating activities, right? So a virtual assistant is one of the biggest things that an author, particularly looking to build their business, can invest in. Because as I mentioned, most of us don't have the budget or resources for full-time employees. Going through an agency organization, which was what I was getting at when I said you can do a Google search on virtual assistants, they can be pretty pricey because of the fact that they have to pay themselves and the people that they're basically like, if you're familiar with a temp agency, they operate in that kind of way. Like you go to them, you tell them what your needs are, and they match you up with the perfect thing, and then there's added on fees because of the fact that you're going through somebody. So if you can go directly to a virtual assistant, that will save you money. And depending on the length of time they've been working and all of those kinds of things, their rates can vary anywhere from as low as, now if you're going to like Indonesia, you can get super, super low rates, but I don't recommend that because I want to make sure that someone can write well in English and answer emails and those types of things of what I'm looking for. So, it just depends on what it is that you need them to do for you. But generally speaking, a good virtual assistant, the type that's going to help you keep track of your inbox, your emails, answer pertinent questions, keep you scheduled, help you schedule events, help you find marketing events, help you submit your books to different awards programs or reviewers or things like that, and help you manage other elements of your business. Those people can rate anywhere between $15 an hour to as high as $60 or $70 an hour, depending on their experience and the level of work that you're expecting them to do, just like anything else. So those are negotiations that you have with them. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute, but know that when you find somebody who's really good, it's worth putting them on a retainer so that you know that you have them available for a certain amount of hours per month, and then you know what to budget for. But more importantly, they know what to budget for, because a lot of freelancers, just like us, if we're freelancing and doing these types of things, like we're trying to find the money to make our monthly goal. So if they're not certain that you're going to be able to provide them with a certain monetary amount for the month, they'll take on other clients, and then they may not have time if you have extra projects. So for me, I find it really important to have somebody who's steady and that I know is my assistant and has time for my projects. So we've worked out the budget and the hours and all those types of things so that I know she has those hours and that time set aside just to work for me. And that's so helpful. She knows my business inside and out, and I truly couldn't do most of the things that I do without my virtual assistant. So beyond the virtual assistant, we have graphic designers, cover designers, editors, people who can do book layout and conversion for you, the admin support, which I was just talking about. If you run a podcast or are frequently doing webinars or anything like that, and you want someone to do your transcription, there's copywriters, there's social media managers, people who can help you with your financial support. And as I mentioned, running a business where you're handling 1099 employees and handling invoices and doing all these types of things, you may want to bring in or consult with somebody who can help you make sure everything is established properly so that you don't get in trouble with the IRS or your country's tax agency. At the end of the day, they can help with sales and marketing strategy. I have worked with and continue to work with a project manager who helps me on the larger things that we're doing to make sure everything is organized and set out so I don't forget anything. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can incorporate freelancers. And again, this goes back to the short-term and long-term uses. So some of these people may be basically permanent members of your team, even though they're permanent freelancers on your team. My virtual assistant is that way. As I just mentioned, she is booked for a certain amount of time, hours a month with me. And then I have a couple of other freelancers who do things like my Instagram posting and social media stuff, and they're on tap for a couple hours a week or something like that, but nothing massive. But they know that they can count on me for those hours every month. So I talked about where to find them just a little bit ago, but the best ways I always think are through referrals, word of mouth, and who other authors and small publishers use. You can usually reach out to other small publishers, other authors who are actively growing their businesses, and ask them where they found their support personnel, where they found their freelancers, where they found their virtual admin, and all of those types of things. Also, if you're friends with other indie authors and indie publishers that are offering services or doing things, reach out to them and ask them. They may either offer the services themselves or have connections and insight into them. Virtual summits like this one, conferences, word of mouth, all those places are usually great ways to find people who offer author support services. Maybe not so much the virtual assistant piece of it, but certainly the editors, the cover designers, the interior designers, and those types of people. They will be partner members in organizations like Ally and other professional societies. They will be there. So if you're a member of Ally, go and see who are the partner members. There's like 6 pages of support services that you can look through and not only get discounts, but that those people have been vetted because Ally says we've vetted these people and they are legit. So make sure you're using your benefits to organizations that you join. There's other professional organizations that train VAs, like Create Your Laptop Life that I mentioned a minute ago. Facebook groups with authors and author support services, obviously, that we're going to find some people there. And again, as I mentioned, we are in the process, we've already started it at writepublishsell.co/freelancers, and we will match you authors and services match up to what's in our database. And if we don't have anyone who matches exactly what you're looking for, we have, we can provide you with some other resources that may help you. And that's a free service, by the way. So, all right. So how do you vet them and figure out your terms of employment? I like when I find a new VA, because the one thing about freelancers that I will warn you on is that not everybody does this full time and forever. Some people like me did it. I did the VA services for about 2 years, And then it was time for me to move on and grow my publishing and my author support business. And I had to give up all of those other clients. So sometimes you wind up looking for somebody again, or it doesn't work out, or they're in a different time zone and you really need them to be available when you're awake and working. So I like to ask for referrals if I can't find somebody in network in any of those places that fits the bill on what I'm looking for, and I'll reach out to them once they've been referred to me or search for them in other ways, and then I give them usually a trial project. And so I ask them to do something small for me. Like if I'm looking for someone to be a transcription person for me, I will send them to a link to one of my videos and ask them to transcribe it. And based on their performance with that, and I base that on how long it takes them to do it, how the vibe feels when we're interacting back and forth, what their price is for what they're doing, and then of course the quality of the product. If it goes well, then I'm willing to bring them on and start assigning them other topics. You can ask for references. You can check with those references and see what they're doing. You can Google them to see if there's anything out there that's negative about them. Check out their Facebook page if they have a business Facebook page and see if there's any negative reviews, all of those types of things. With the pricing, some have very established rates. Their rate may be solidly $45 an hour. Some of them will give a small discount on that if you do a package. What I mean by a package is if you are going to do a long-term project where they can count on your income for 2 or 3 months, or if you want to sign on for a retainer package, which says, yes, indefinitely, we will work together and I want you for 5 hours a month. They may bring down their price a little bit if they know they can count on that income every single month. But a lot of freelancers will have a price that's fairly set in stone at their hourly rate. Again, almost everyone is negotiable. It just depends on what's going on. But these people are trying to do a job too. So if someone says that their rate is $35 an hour, it's a little bit insulting if you say, well, I can only afford to pay you $15 an hour. Well, then you probably should look for somebody who is at that rate and not ask someone who's at a different rate to bring it down. Usually the higher the price means the better experience they have, the more experience they have, and the better they are doing with it. So often you'll find newbies to the freelance and virtual assistant world who start in the $10 to $15 range. And if you're just looking for someone to help you post your blog posts on your Facebook page and schedule tweets and posts and things like that, you'll be able to find people who can do simple tasks at the lower rates. But if you're looking for somebody like my assistant, who is a true assistant to me, she helps run my business, schedule my meetings, answer my emails. I'm not going to find somebody like that at $10 or $15 an hour. And I very much value what she brings to my business, because by allowing her to handle all of those things, I am able to focus on the things that bring in money to our organization. In terms of contracts and all of those things, it's pretty much like any. I would recommend that you have some type of terms of agreement between each other that are written, just because it's safer for everyone involved if you have some type of agreement in place. Most freelancers will come to you with those. Most of the time when you say you want to work with them, the way it will work is that they will send you a quote from their payment system, their invoice system, or their contracts management system. There's a lot of them available, like Dubsado and 17 Hats and things like that. So they'll send you a quote that outlines what you talked about. It'll say, this is the price, this is what you're getting for the price, and then you can accept that. There may either be a follow-on contract, basically, that just says, okay, we've agreed that I'm going to give you 5 hours a month of social media management, and under that social media management, I'll be posting to your Facebook page and your Twitter account and helping you, whatever it is, and the rate is ... And then you can pay them through those online invoices too. There's so many great systems out there. It's usually fairly easy to manage that whole process. And like I said, usually that part actually comes from the side of the person who is accepting payment. So you won't even usually have to worry about that. And most freelancers do expect to be paid for the full month in advance if you've got not in advance, but at the beginning of the month, if you have a retainer hours, for example. So if you've got them for 5 hours, they would like to be paid at the beginning of the month, and that way it's no hassle. They can go and do the work. Some will invoice you at the end of the month for all the hours worked that month if you don't have them on a specific task. And some, like cover designers and editors and things like that, will give you a quote for a package price, like that they quote you, $2,000 to help you edit your book or lay out your book or whatever. And then they'll expect to receive partial payments along the way and different payment options and plans. So those are just things that you two have to work together. Some people are very insistent on their terms of payment. If anybody insists on 100% payment in advance for a large project that has lots of deliverables and milestones, for example, if you had someone who was going to help you lay out a book and they quoted you $800 and wanted full payment at the beginning, that's usually a red flag. And there needs to be a pretty good reason why they need to be paid in advance in full. And you do have to be very, very careful for predatory people out there who will take your money and run. So unless there's a very good reason, most people don't ask for higher than a 15 to 25% deposit on a project. Unless it's a small quote, like say it's a $500 quote, it's a project that shouldn't take more than a couple days or even a week, like a cover design. Some of them may say 50% up front, 50% on completion. That's completely normal and acceptable. Others will just bill you at the end when it's completed. So it just really depends on the person and what their process is, and that's something that can be worked out between you. So managing your team. So once you start bringing on all these different people, or even just one person, you need to make sure that you have systems in place so that you guys can stay on the same page and be together. And this takes a little bit of working out, actually. Just as you get to know each other, as you get to know each other's styles, as you grow together to build a project together. But the things that can make you a lot more successful at this is having some type of weekly engagement. For example, my assistant and I, we have blocked off every Monday morning a time where we get together on Zoom, which is an online webinar or actually online conferencing system. So we don't get together every Monday if there's not a whole lot to go over, but during times of a lot of stuff, we will get together and we'll talk through everything happening that week, the major priorities. We make sure we're on the same page, that I understand her availability, that she understands my priorities, and we try and work through and make sure that we're on the same page with all of that stuff. If you have multiple people on your team doing a lot of different things, some type of weekly or every other week or something is a great idea. And Zoom is a free tool. It's easy to use. Everybody can pop in the same room. You can see each other, you can hear each other, and you can go over, what's happening. Like if you're getting ready for a big book launch and you're working with a lot of different people, maybe a social media manager, an assistant, a graphic artist, or anything like that, you might want to plan on having a couple of team meetings because, they all integrate, really, all those different elements integrate together. And if one piece of the pie is dropped, then it can have effects that go throughout everything, domino effects. Okay. So a project management tool, there are lots of these out there. I'm sure you may have heard of things like Asana and Basecamp. I really like to use Trello, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on Trello and show you some screenshots in a minute. But for me, I've tried to use these other project management tools, and I find the interfaces to be really user unfriendly or just really difficult visually for me to keep an eye on everything that's happening. So I'm going to talk about Trello in a minute, but really, as long as you have a place, Asana is a good one. A lot of people use Basecamp, Teamwork. There's a lot of them out there. Some of them are free. Some of them have a low fee, but you can go into them and set up tasks, assign tasks, deadlines, all these types of things. You can see what everybody's doing. You can make sure that everybody is on the same page and set up a process and a flow for the things that need to be done. So if you bring on a virtual assistant that's going to help you manage your inbox and your calendar, maybe you're doing a lot of promo events, maybe you're on a virtual book tour. Maybe you're doing something like this. So you would go in and set up the project, set out the milestones, set out the things that are supposed to be happening and who's responsible for making them happen and by when and what's required and all those things, and put them so that any one of you at any time can go in and check and see what's happening. So especially if you work with someone in a different time zone, these types of tools are essential, so that if your virtual assistant wakes up in the middle of gets to work in the middle of your night and they have a question about something, they don't have to wait until the next morning to get the information. Everything that they need should be right there in one place where they can coordinate. All right, so an invoicing and payment system, this is usually going to be for them. They'll take care of it on their side. They'll send you the invoice, they'll send you the payment, or you can pay them through PayPal or, however they have it set up. But most people will send you an invoice through their tool, and you just have to make sure that you're set up to pay them. W-9s and 1099 employees. This is specifically to Americans. And I'm sorry, I don't know the tax structure everyone else. So whatever you call it over there in the United States, when we bring on someone who is a subcontractor or hired for short-term work or not an official employee of an organization where we pay, into their retirement and their benefits and all those types of things, they are called 1099 employees. They have to fill out what's called a W-9 and submit that to you so that you have all their information so that you can file the 1099. It's a fairly simple process. It sounds a little bit crazy, but it's not that difficult. And basically what you need to know is that when you bring on a freelancer that you're intending to work with for a long period of time, just ask them. It's a PDF form that they can easily fill out, sometimes online if you're using a PDF online filler, or even fill out, print, and scan and send back to you. You can keep it on file. It's very simple for them to do. And then you'll have all the information that you need when it's time to file the 1099. You'll have to put in the information on how much anybody who earns more than $600 a year working for you you're required to file a 1099. So, the taxes and legal stuff and all that is a pretty in-depth conversation in itself, but just know that if you're working extensively with a freelancer, you need to require that they submit a W-9, Americans of course, and that you will be filing a 1099 for them with your taxes. Okay. Systems and processes for them to follow. This is super, super important. Some of them will be able to create them for you. The faster you can bring people on board, if they're long-term employees, like a virtual assistant who's going to be doing certain things, and the faster you two can nail down how you want things done and how you expect things to happen, the better things are going to flow for you. If you bring on someone to do social media for you and you say, I just want you to post 2 to 4 times on my Facebook page, and that's all the guidance you get, you have no right to be upset with them if you don't like what they're doing. However, if you say to them, I really like to follow a schedule of Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays posting memes and links to other useful websites, and give them a list of those websites. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, I like to post my own blog post or this or that, lay out those processes for them to follow. Or if you're brand new to this and know nothing about social media, then it's worth having a good conversation with them. And if they are good at what they do, then they should be able to set up a process for you and say, based on what you've told me, based on what you're trying to achieve, I think the best way to do that is to publish 6 posts a day at these times on these topics, and you guys can iron that out together. Contracts and terms of agreement may or may not be necessary depending on the length, depending on the project, depending on all those types of things. There are situations where non-disclosure agreements may be needed. You might want to have them sign a non-compete, especially if you're worried about them taking proprietary information or taking something like that, or taking, if you offer support services to other authors, and you're afraid of someone on your team, running away with all your people that you're running social media for, or anything like that. I mean, strange things do happen, so it's good to be prepared, and it's good to have your ducks in a row. So if it's a situation where you feel like you need a non-compete, then, that should be hashed out. But if you're using referrals and people that have been vetted, these types of things shouldn't necessarily be an issue. But, I would definitely say that some type of terms of agreement is probably going to come to you from their side, and then from your side, it's probably a great idea that you implement that as well, especially if it's someone that you're paying a lot of money to. So, but usually this is another reason why I like bringing on people and working long term with them, because they get invested in your business and in your author growth and all of those things with you, and you don't have to worry about some of these things. But it's good to have the legal stuff in place to protect both of you, and if you're more comfortable with contracts in terms of agreement, if they don't already provide one for you to sign for them, then you may consider it. I talked about some of these already, but Trello, I'm going to go into more detail in a second. Asana, Basecamp, and Teamwork are fairly low cost project management software. You can log in, you can add users, so you can bring in anyone who's on your team. You can set up projects and deliverables, milestones, all these types of things for anything major that's happening. And don't let those terms scare you. If you want to think about, for example, if you're you've just published a new book and now you're looking for reviewers, or you're looking for awards programs to submit to. All of those are projects, and those can be broken down into what has to happen. Where do they need to research? What do they need to get when they research? Where do they put the information when they research? What things need to be included, and where is that being stored for them to grab? All those types of things can be broken down into projects that you can hand over to someone and say, this is how we do it. Ask me if you have any questions, or something like that. Other tools that I really like to use, I talked about Zoom, but I really like a tool called Voxer. It's kind of like a walkie-talkie app that you can install on your phone, and it allows you to communicate in real time if they're available in real time. If not, they get a message that they can listen to. You can also text through it. It doesn't have to be voice messages. But I use Voxer a lot, in particular when I'm driving and something comes up that I forgot to ask my assistant to do, or an idea pops into my mind and I'm like, ooh, I just heard about so-and-so, can you go find out about this? So it's a video thing. I mean, it's not a video, it's an audio. You send a quick message or a long message. I got an 11.5-minute Voxer from somebody the other day, but we were having quite the conversation. And you can communicate back and forth and share details, share tasks, share those types of things, and they can respond to you via voice as well. So it's a great tool, and it's great to use with other clients that you're working with. If you're helping other authors do their books and you have a quick question that you're hoping to get a quick answer from, you can send them a box and say, hey, did you get a chance to see the sample layout that I sent you? Or, don't forget to check on such and such, or those types of things. You get the point. Okay, I talked about Trello and said I was going to talk more about it, so here I am. So Trello for project management is pretty cool. I'm going to show you some screenshots so that you can see what I'm talking about here. But some of my favorite elements of this is that you can set up templates and you can copy and paste those for recurring projects. So say you're a prolific writer and you're putting out 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 books a year. And each time this is the process that we follow. This is when we contact the cover designer. This is what happens with the cover design. This is where we store our keywords. This is what tool we use to do, whatever it is. This is where I'm putting the back cover copy. This is where I'm putting all the front and back matter. Those types of things. You set up your process for those projects, and then you can actually have a template so that every time you're going through this particular project, you can just copy the board and you've got it ready to go to fill in with your new details for your new book or your new project. You can store things like if you want to put in usernames and passwords and things like that so that everyone on your team has easy access. So if, for example, somebody refreshes their, or what's it called, wipes their computer or gets rid of all their things, and all of a sudden they don't have access to the website because their stored username and password is gone and they can't remember where they put it or those types of things, they can easily go into the password stuff and find that. Or if you're not comfortable putting passwords on there are secure places where you can store and share your passwords. I would recommend that more so than an unsecure Trello board. But one thing that is great for beyond the secure stuff is your affiliate links, where if you have an affiliate relationship with someone and you're constantly adding those links into your emails that you send out or blog posts that you set up or anything like that, it's great to have those. Or if somebody says, hey, I want to become a member of Ally, and you say, oh, it's a great organization, and hold on a second, if you're going to join, use this link, and you can easily grab it. Also, if you've got someone doing promo stuff for you and publicity and things like that, you'll want to have a place where they can easily copy and paste your bio, grab your headshot, anything like that they need quickly, so that they're not having to constantly bug you for that information. You can include multiple people on projects, assign the due dates, create checklists, project flow, all those kinds of things. You can track time through an add-on to Trello that's, I just forgot the name of it, but I've got it in a later slide, so you can use that. And then, of course, you're uploading and storing your files and key documents so that everybody has access to them and there's no holdup while you're waiting for someone to give you access to something or send something your way. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's kind of cool. It's like a digital bulletin board. So each one of these is considered a card, and you can start adding, or here you can't really see it, but there's a blank box where you can add a new card. So you set up your title up here, so what's going to happen up here. So this is our VA communications board, so all of our virtual assistants. We have the ongoing assignments and who's responsible for what, so that we know what's happening. We have general information, an onboarding kit, so that every time we get a new person, we know exactly what to send them, what forms we need from them, you know, all the pertinent information. We have tasks by person if they have extra tasks. We have all the Instagram, social media management, all that stuff. If we're going to do a team training or a team meeting, I can add those things here. And it's cool. You just click on the add a card and something like this pops up, and you can give it a title, and then you can go inside those cards. And I didn't do a drill down, but within the inside of the cards, you can create checklists, you can make comments, you can add documents, you can add images, you can do all kinds of things. So you just literally click on the inside, you can add who is supposed to be working that project, so you see who's involved in it. And for me, I'm a very visual person, and it's really good at helping me keep things organized because you can see the activity, what's happening, you can leave each other notes. So these comments would be inside one of these cards. I'm thinking about probably removing the usernames and passwords just because of my concern for everything, and putting them onto a secure username and password thing. But we haven't, well, this one we don't have anything stored in, so it's all right, but don't tell anybody on me. Okay. So tools for Toggle is the app that goes in with, Punch Time integrates with Trello. Toggle is just another free app and timer that your team can use to keep track of their time. So tools for invoicing and time tracking and things like that, if they don't already know this stuff, or if it needs to be integrated with your things here, we use QuickBooks and invoicing, PayPal, 17 Hats, Toggle for the free timer app. Punch Time can be integrated with Trello. And there's all kinds of tools out there. This is probably going to be used more so from the side of your freelancer than it is from your side, but you should be familiar with them anyway. So I believe that was the last slide. Yes. Again, I would love to invite you, if you're looking for a particular type of service, we have a form on our website that will help us in reaching out to people that we already know that are looking for these types of things. And right now we're offering this as a free service, helping to match up freelancers and the people who need them. And the reason we're starting off free is because, well, it's in beta right now. We're trying to make sure that we can actually do this and it's going to work as we hope through it, as we walk through it. But additionally, I've seen way too many people just get completely burned because they didn't know what they didn't know, and going in with a freelancer and just like, and then they'll come eventually. Some of these people find me and they say, you know, I paid this person X number of dollars and they didn't do anything that they said they were going to do, or all these, you know, they said they could do X, Y, and Z, but as they started doing it, all they were doing was copying and pasting something from whatever, you know, whatever the situation is. I've seen some horror stories, and it's really upsetting to me, because I know as an indie author myself that we're already investing a lot of time and money into our projects, and to be worked like that, to lose money on someone who's a fraud or not representing themselves properly it's really sad for me to see, and I want to try and help avoid that as much as possible. So where we can, we're trying to gather information from people that we've worked with, that we've heard good reviews about, and all of those scenarios. So thank you so very much. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to answer them. You can leave comments on here, or info@writepublishsell.co is my email address. Thanks, and have a fabulous day.